So we're gonna talk about wrestling matches today.
We're gonna talk about wrestling matches, okay? Is that fine?
Good.
All right, guys, we soon gonna talk about another podcast change with the Undertaker. He going through another change that they're gonna do with the channel. Let's talk more about it at the locker room.
I'm tired of being humble. I'm tired of letting people think they got a chance. The tribal chief is head and shoulders above everybody.
Hey, guys, Toss Ring Scandal, aka KDA's Turnbuckle King the building. We back the locker room. We'll talk about WWE to launch Undertaker YouTube channel featuring the Undertaker. You guys sit in your seats because we about to air some dirty laundry on this one. Now, you know Undertaker, we know that he went through a podcast change earlier this year when he had his original 6 Feet Under with Matt Lyda. When WWE took over, they had, Michelle, and they took Matt out. But he's changing it once again, guys. If you remember, this is the news here. It said WWE is building out a specialized YouTube channel devoted to the dead man himself, The Undertaker. And he's teaming up with The Undertaker and, WWE. And it's supposed to launch November 19th of this brand new podcast. This is supposed to be, a review of the past Undertaker matches throughout his 35-year career. But he's still going to have Michelle McCool there. She's going to be there reviewing the matches with him. So I guess the podcast with Michelle McCool, just those two originally, I don't think the viewership worked out too well, or the fans did not have a quite positive reception to that. So they're going to change it once again, and he's doing it once again. It'll just say Undertaker on there. It'll still say 6 Feet Under, but it's just a review of the Undertaker's matches. Now, the whole thing about this, guys, there's still some pushback against Michelle McCool. They still want her out as the co-host of the show. So this is WWE's way of not taking Michelle McCool off, but they're trying to respond to the negative criticism towards Michelle McCool replacing Matt Lyda. They're just trying to reformat the podcast that Undertaker has once again. But the thing about it is this going to work? Is Undertaker reviewing his matches with his real-life wife, Michelle McCool, going to work? Will this bring Undertaker's podcast back to prominence as it was before? Now, like I said, Maven Huffman, former wrestler, he talked about the whole criticism towards Michelle McCool and Undertaker. And what Undertaker also, with him, Michelle McCool replied to what fans had to say about the negative criticism towards both of them. Now, he talks about this on his podcast. Let's see what Maven had to say here.
Recently, there's been some drama involving The Undertaker and his wife, Michelle McCool. I wanted to let some time pass before I offered my perspective, partly because I had a hand in this mess, and also I view Taker and Michelle as friends. So here's the backstory. In 2023, The Undertaker started a very successful podcast independent of the WWE. It was called 6 Feet Under with Mark Calaway, and his co-host was a gentleman named Matt Lyda. Not only was Matt a co-host, but he was a driving force in the creation and the day-to-day survival of the podcast. In March of 2025, the podcast would abruptly halt. And a few months following that, it would be reborn under the WWE banner. Along with new branding and ownership, Matt Lyda would be out of the picture, replaced by Undertaker's wife, Michelle McCool. Not only that, fans felt as though the vibe of the podcast had changed from an anything goes to more of a corporate, sanitized feel. But that's only part of the story. Separate of the podcast was the fans' issues with Michelle McCool. McCool had been inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2025, which was somewhat of a controversial pick. Additionally, McCool would replace fan favorite Mickie James on WWE's reality show, LFG. This was also met with backlash from the fans, feeling that McCool's selection was a nepotism pick. In summary, those are the main reasons that The Undertaker and Michelle McCool find themselves in this drama. And adding fuel to the fire would be their responses when addressing the situation.
Well, Crested Saguaro 520 You know what he said?
No.
He said he truly believes that The Undertaker is a good guy at heart. But
Here we go.
But he gives his wife too much. I could never be married to a woman who wants to have control over everything, and furthermore, I would tell her no.
99.5% of the guys that I've ever been in a dressing room with or worked in a territory with, they're going to tell you that as much clout as I supposedly have, or even if I do, I never ever would have used it for that kind of crap. And it's absurd that people get on the internet and can use words like reliable sources and this and that,
Dirt sheets,
and everybody believes it.
A lot of people want to stay relevant that way, though.
Well, I think there's a lot of that, and then there's a lot of people on the internet that just think, well, I mean, it has to be what he's doing, because if I had that kind of juice, that's what I would do.
And that's the problem. Y'all are the problem.
Yeah, but again, my inner circle of people and the guys that I shared that dressing room with, and they know the truth, and as long as they know the truth, then
that saying, like, my silence can long outlast the lies.
Yeah. And anybody that doesn't believe any of that, they can all line up single file. I'll bend over and they can line up and kiss my.
So that was Maven's take on the whole thing, and then Undertaker, you heard what he replied to what the fans say. He said they can all kiss his ass. Now, Maven, I feel like, he interviewed Matt Lyda, and since Matt Lyda brought to light what happened, that brought just, negative criticism towards Undertaker, Michelle McCool, but it probably brought some negative things towards Maven as well. I believe since Maven, Undertaker, Michelle McCool are, friends, like he said, I believe that they were upset at Maven for doing an interview, as it created bad publicity towards Undertaker, especially Michelle McCool. And I think this is Maven's way of making it up to the Undertaker and Michelle McCool to make the video that he made, showing his props towards Undertaker and Michelle McCool for their accomplishments and everything they've done. I believe that's why he made the video, in my opinion. I will say too, Maven, who also he's made good content. He's definitely a successful YouTuber for what the work he's done. I just believe when he made this video per se, that this was a way of him, getting back on the Undertaker and Michelle McCool's good side because of the stuff that has done in the past, what he said with Matt Lyda, because Matt Lyda exposed everything. He believed he was booted out, and a lot of everybody online, and I did a video on that. Everyone talked about how bad that it made Michelle McCool and Undertaker look at that particular time. So the question is, with WWE reformatting this podcast for Undertaker reviewing his matches, will this bring some type of views back? Will fans come back to the podcast? We all know once Undertaker started this journey not too long ago with Matt Lyda, I believe a couple years ago. Will this bring the fans back since they're changing the podcast again? And if you had to ask me right now, I don't think it's going to do too much. It will have to take for not just WWE change this podcast, but also maybe have someone else there alongside Michelle McCool and Undertaker. If you could have a third person there, maybe it could possibly work. Maybe a former wrestler, someone that's in wrestling business that was a wrestler during the Undertaker's era. That may work, because we know Matt Lyda was not with, he wasn't a wrestler or anything like that. So that didn't do anything for the whole thing as far as the podcast goes. But we got to see what's going to happen next. We got to see what's going to happen. It's been out now for I think a few days now at this point, not too long. But only time will tell what's going to happen next to the podcast. I don't know if it's going to bring much difference to bringing the fans back. I don't know if they're going to be happy to see Undertaker, doing this with Michelle McCool, just reviewing his past matches. Maybe that'll bring some light to things, having the nostalgia, the memories of Undertaker's matches, watching the old school matches, his best rivalries, best feuds. Maybe that'll help out, but I don't think it will, because it's just the fans just can't get over the fact that they have to watch Michelle McCool alongside Undertaker, and already having the nepotism claims against her that they don't think she should be on the podcast at all, for that matter. I know already that the whole LFG situation with Michelle McCool replacing Mickie James. Undertaker has stated that Michelle McCool was the original choice for that show, then the podcast and everything else in the Hall of Fame. I think it's just too much at once for the fans to take in. Now, maybe it's a possibility when things, slow down for a little bit, maybe after a while, when Michelle McCool is the host for a while, maybe the fans will get used to it and maybe warm up to her more. That's a possibility as well. But in order for that to happen, it will have to take Michelle to be on the podcast maybe 3, 4, 5 years if it's still going on. But I do know that I don't think the views are the same compared to his original podcast. A lot of people have tuned off, so we're going to have to see how this will go with this new format once again. But other than that, that's all I have for WWE to launch Undertaker's YouTube channel featuring the Undertaker. You guys let me know what you think of this change. Will it make a difference or not? Will you watch the new format for Undertaker's podcast of his own matches? Check out the content here at Toss Ring Scandal, aka KDH. And until then, guys, you already know what it is at this point. It's OUT.